How is it going, my guys? Stu again. Listen, film festival's carrying on. We got some more films to chat about. And today's film is absolutely one of my most anticipated of the festival. Heck, one of my most anticipated of the year. It's the latest from Mr. Guadagnino. And again, he's teamed up with Timothee Chalamet, who we all love, obviously. But this time he's given him something nice and juicy to really sink his teeth into, you know? A bloody good time on screen here. Yeah? Timmy really ate it up. It's a cannibal film. So, Bones and All is the new Luca Guadagnino film, adapted from the novel of the same name, I believe, written by, give me one sec, Camille De Angelis. Look at that, seamless. It's like I knew it all along. I've never read that novel, evidently, so I'm coming into this one totally fresh. I knew nothing about this one other than that it involved cannibals, romance, and that it was Luca Guadagnino and Timothee Chalamet's in it again. And look, you guys know I love Call Me By Your Name. It was my favourite film of the year when that came out. And that was the first thing I'd seen from Mr. Guadagnino. And since then, he's continued to impress me. I absolutely adore Suspiria, his remake of the classic horror film. And both of those films are very different ends of the spectrum, but use a lot of his same sensibilities as a director to pull out different things. One being an incredibly tender and sensual love story. The other one being a horror film with lots of blood and gore, and it was wild. It was wild. And Bones and All seemed like it promised a blending of those two different ends of the spectrum from Guadagnino as a filmmaker, which is something I was obviously very excited to see. And I have to say, it absolutely delivered and then some. This film was just wonderful. I'm reluctant to say too much, but the central premise really is that we have a cannibal that's starting to learn a little bit about herself, and she meets a drifter who happens to be another cannibal, and the two of them form a bond, form a relationship, and begin to learn things about each other. It stars Taylor Russell and Timothee Chalamet in the lead roles there, and it's written for the screen, adapted from the novel by David Kaganich. And like all of Guadagnino's other films, this film is incredibly tender and made me cry. Which here more than the others is much more impressive, just given the topic and given the things that this film's touching on and doing and showing to us. I'm sure I don't need to highlight the fact that a cannibal romantic drama coming of age film doesn't immediately sound like the most seamless meshing of genres, right? But who else to come in and convince us that those were a match made in heaven? And that's what this thing is, really. It's an immaculate sort of balancing act of all of those different pieces, of all of those genre staples, and it works so well. The cannibal stuff is cannibally. I don't know how else to say it. People eat each other, and it doesn't shy away from showing it. But similarly, the human side of things, the drama and the romance here, the characters that we're following through this cannibal story are all amazingly woven together. Every character in this film feels so layered and textured, and it's one of those screenplays, one of those films which is constantly sort of peeling back parts from different characters and from different situations. And I love the way that Guadagnino sort of interweaves all of that. We're learning about, I guess, the cannibal world and that side of things, what the hell is going on there, and all of the terms they have for things. It's an established world with various different cannibals in it, but we're also learning about our characters' backstory and their history. It's a really smart and, dare I say, kind of genius weaving of those things together. And I think Guadagnino as a director has the perfect hand to kind of balance those things, because he has such tuned touch, right? He has such a good way of getting into the sort of sensualities of things, of the textures of things. And that makes his approach to human drama incredibly authentic and incredibly absorbing, but it also makes his approach to horror and bloody gory stuff incredibly visceral. And the blending of those things means that you'll be sort of horrified and really touched and moved and sort of crying and maybe laughing at various different points. But those relationships in the film that are the crux of this thing are driven by fantastic central performances here. I mean, Timothee Chalamet, listen, at this point we know Chalamet is a killer actor. Despite his huge fame, obviously, at this point, he's still able to kind of shake it off and feel at home in his characters. A few scenes with him in the film and you understand that this is a character that has history and that is holding on to a lot of emotion and weight, and that just makes it all the more engrossing as you get to the inevitable crescendos of his character in the film. But Taylor Russell here, as I guess the lead of the film, is just fantastic and probably the best we've seen from her. I think framing the film as a coming-of-age piece from her character's perspective, with her performance in particular, is such a fantastic decision here from Guadagnino and from the writers. Her character's awakening in the film, in the emotional sense and in the cannibal sense, is us as a viewer's way through the film and our way into the film. And so having such a kind of, I guess, innocent, almost sort of naive performance from Russell here in the lead really does help through that. But there are also great side characters in here as well. I mean, Mark Rylance pops up with an incredibly creepy turn and probably one of the better performances we've seen from him for a long time. Just the sort of performance which makes your hairs stand up on your arms. But the reason it all lands so well is that tenderness that Guadagnino's vision as a director brings to it all. It is exactly the sort of film I suppose you'd expect from him. There's almost this kind of beauty to the horror in this film, and I love the way that the film almost doesn't treat the big, brutal cannibal moments as big, horrific, brutal cannibal moments. I mean, obviously, it does to some extent because they are horrible things to watch. But they're often woven into sequences that aren't just about people eating people, right? It's not just, hey, look, someone's eating someone. They're driven by some really meaty, forgive the pun, character moments, thematic moments. And it's so ballsy, I think, to go for stuff like that in some of the film's more climactic moments. It really does feel like the sort of thing which shouldn't really work, and yet when you're watching it unfold on screen, it is working, it is clicking. It's a very strange experience to be crying at an incredibly emotional moment on screen, but know that you're literally watching someone chew on someone's stomach or face, right? I just have to applaud Guadagnino for being probably one of the few filmmakers that would even go near something like that, let alone pull it off like he has done here. But Guadagnino now has a big old toolbox here at his disposal to create such a tender atmosphere, and they are all working overtime. I mean, the cinematography here is really, really stunning, but perhaps my favorite piece of the tonal puzzle here has to be the score from Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Look, they don't miss. They just do not miss when it comes to film soundtracks, and this might be my favorite of theirs for a long time because it felt so refreshing, I think, from them. I mean, immediately it feels like a Trent Reznor Atticus Ross score, but I love the way it fits into this film. It's got an incredibly low-key quality that sort of creeps its way in and out of the film with this amazing sort of Americana twang to it all that's able to make you feel so gross and unsettled at one moment, but then also so deeply moved at others. I don't think for a second this film would have been anywhere near as impactful, anywhere near as affecting without such a fantastic score undercurrenting it all. I just cannot wait to listen to this score. I can't wait to see it again. It's again one of those scores which is forever ingrained with certain moments, certain images from this film in my head, and I just want to replay them over and over. So if that could just hurry up and get on Spotify so I can slap it in my earballs, that'd be lovely. Ultimately, I'm just so happy that this one didn't disappoint for me and did everything I wanted it to and satisfied in so many different ways. It is a really remarkable, touching cannibal film, which is not a sentence I ever really expected to be saying. And yet here we are, it's done. But what about you guys? Have you caught Bones and all? Did you see it at the film festival? Have you seen it elsewhere? Or are you just incredibly excited to check it out? Whatever you thought, let me know in the comments down below and we'll have a little chat. Of course, if you like this video and you want to see me talk about more shit, go ahead and click subscribe. Buttons down there means you won't miss any future reviews when they drop. And we've got a load of them coming at the moment because of the film festival. So yes, click the button and then just stay peeled. But my social links are down there as well, including my letterbox if you do fancy hearing what I've got to say elsewhere in the year. I'll see you guys soon for some more thoughts on more films. But until next time, I feel like if I ever see Mark Rylance in the street now, I'm just going to run. Like, drop everything and get the actual fuck out of there. Because that dude is a creepy motherfucker.